I'm really excited for our next event. We are going to learn about a pretty elusive species and one that I think is just spectacular. We're going to spend some time with Shafqat Hussain. He's the founder of the Snow Leopard Project. He's a Rolex laureate, and he's also an associate professor of anthropology at Trinity College. So I'm going to pop him in now. How are we doing, Shafqat?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Joe?
I'm good. I'm good. It seems like I only saw you a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool. Well, it's great to have you joining us. I know your field work can take you to Pakistan. Is that right?
Yes.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit, and then we'll see if we have a few questions to throw your way.
Okay. Thank you so much, Joe and Paul, for inviting me and giving me opportunity to share my work with the audience. So I'm going to try to now share my screen. Okay. Can you all see the... Can you all see my screen?
There we go. Looks good.
All righty. So I'm going to talk about a project that I helped establish about 2 decades ago in 1999 in northern Pakistan, and it's called Project Snow Leopard. It has now evolved into a larger organization, which is called Baltistan Wildlife Conservation and Development Organization. So I'm just going to talk about what this project is all about, and so far what we have been able to achieve. So this is the map of global snow leopard range. As you can see, it is found only in Central and South Asia, and mainly in the Himalayan and Karakoram and Kunlun mountain system, but also at the steppes region of Russia and Mongolia. And in Pakistan, if you can see in the left middle of your screen, that's Pakistan, and it's found in the northern areas of Pakistan where the Karakoram, Himalayas, and the Hindu Kush mountains meet. This is what the landscape looks like. It's very arid, high altitude desert. And you can see these green oases, which are basically human habitation. Because of human habitation, there is greenery. So it's sort of counterintuitive. Usually we see that where humans go, there is degradation. But in this case, humans have converted this very desolate landscape into flourishing villages. This is what a village looks like. Very small agricultural fields. Only less than, I think, 2% of the area is arable in this region. So people are subsistence farmers. They grow various crops in their fields and also have fruit trees and fuelwood trees that they grow on the boundaries of their fields. They also keep livestock, and they follow a transhumant cycle of migration, where they keep their livestock on high pastures in the beginning of the summer and bring them down and in fall, in October. And sometimes this happens to their livestock. As you can see, there are about more than a dozen dead sheep and goat. And this is another case. These are blurry pictures because these are taken from cell phone cameras of local herders. But as you can see, snow leopards kill domestic livestock, and in some instances it engages in what is called surplus killing, meaning that it kills more than what it can actually eat. So people and farmers get incensed, and they do this. In the top picture, there's a carcass of a goat which farmers found, and in the second one, you can see next to the carcass is a dead Himalayan chough, which is a scavenging bird. So it indicates that the farmers had poisoned the carcass in order to kill the goat. So this is the kind of method they use to kill the snow leopard. And farmers say that we don't have anything against the snow leopard, but we can't afford to lose our goats to this predator, although it is considered a unique and an endangered species. But from the perspective of farmers, it is a threat. So their natural reaction is to eliminate this threat. So our project tries to resolve this conflict. Our approach is participatory. We talk to villagers. We explain to them what we want to do and what we want to achieve. We explain to them our mutual. And when and if we have a consensus, because sometimes we don't have a consensus. Sometimes villagers do not agree with the terms of partnership and their obligation. So we just walk away. But if and when we have a consensus, then we engage in a collaborative project with the villagers. So we basically do three things. We provide insurance to their livestock. So people pay in a small amount of premium, and we subsidize this premium with funding from outside sources. The second activity we have is a corral improvement. We make corrals of local herders predator-proof, because a lot of killings happen when snow leopards jump into a corral and engages in surplus killing. A corral is a pen where local herders keep their livestock. And the third activity we have is population monitoring using analysis, genetic analysis, as well as camera trapping. So this is what, on the left-hand side, you can see a traditional corral, and you can see it's so easy for any predator to get into it at night and just decimate the herd. On the right side is a predator-proof corral. It's simple technology, but because the people are so poor, they're unable to afford this, even mesh wire and these wooden poles. So we use indigenous technology to upgrade their corrals, and people pay in kind, meaning that they bring local material. As you can see, stone, so people provided the stone free of cost. They make it themselves, so there is no labor charges for it. So it's in some ways unfair to say that local people have no share in it. They do provide share in terms of their labor. This is another picture of a predator-proof corral. We have built so far close to 5 dozen of these corrals, and each one of them can hold up to, depending on the size, they are usually 50 feet by 20 feet, so can hold up to 250 to 350 animals. These are other pictures. So for the last 10 years, we have built, so this is 2021, so we have built 8 more in the last 2 years. So we have built close to 5 dozen and about $150,000 that we have spent. And so far, we have had no case of corral invasion or even predation around the corral where we have built these predator-proof corrals. The second activity is, the third activity is the population monitoring using Scat analysis. So Scat analysis allows us to do 2 things. First, it allows us to see what is the composition of diet of snow leopard, because there's a lot of controversy about how much snow leopards really depend on domestic livestock. Conservationists argue that villagers exaggerate, they sometimes misidentify the predator, or they do not know the real cause of mortality, whereas villagers, on the other hand, claim that snow leopards kill their livestock in great numbers. So in order to kind of resolve this conflict, we said, okay, let's see what snow leopards have been eating. So we did 2 studies so far. One was concluded in 2011 and the other recently. And what we have found in 2011 study that about 70% of snow leopard diet was domestic livestock. So this is a high number, and this sort of, confirms the claims of villagers that snow leopard does indeed take a toll on their livestock, which is a very important source of, livelihood for them. It's a source of saving for them. So this is another study that was conducted by a different set of scientists, Italian scientists working in Pakistan in exactly the same area, and they published in the same their study in the same journal 6 years later, and they found exactly the same numbers. So we can, based on this evidence, we can say that in some ways, local farmers are unwittingly subsidizing the snow leopard population. We also conduct, as part of the third activity, surveys using do some camera trapping. Joe, can I ask you to show us the first video of predation? I totally forgot to ask you to show it. Just the first.
मैं इस वक्त जिला हुंजा के गांव मिसगार गोजाल में मौजूद हूं। आज 28 फरवरी 2021 को मिसगार गांव में एक चीता ने हमला करके कई भेड़ बकरियों को शिकार किया। काफ़ी भेड़ बकरियां मुर्दा हालत में पाए गए, जबकि काफ़ी भेड़ बकरियों को ज़ख्मी भी किया है। इस वक्त काफ़ी भेड़ बकरियों की हालात ख़तरे में है। यकीनन न ये चल सकते हैं, न ये जो कुछ खा सकते हैं। इनकी हालात आप देख रहे हैं। ये मुकम्मल तौर पर हलाक।
So in that video, short video, you saw that snow leopards come right into the village in broad daylight and attack domestic livestock. So it also kind of problematizes this common perception in conservation literature that snow leopards attack domestic livestock only when villagers take their stock in snow leopard habitat, meaning in upper reaches of the valleys. In this case, we can see that snow leopards comes right down into the village and attack a livestock. And another argument that is made in conservation literature is that snow leopards attack domestic livestock only when their natural prey, which is different kinds of wild goats and sheep, have been hunted out by villagers. So kind of villagers ate snow leopard's prey, so snow leopard doesn't have any choice but to attack the domestic livestock of villagers. And that's also kind of not what we are seeing is not the case in our project area where we work and where these predations happen. There's a very healthy population of wild ungulates, meaning mainly ibex and markhor and blue sheep. And the reason is that about 25 years ago, the government of Pakistan started a trophy hunting program, which was hugely successful and has also resulted in increase in the number of these ungulates. And my theory is that because the ungulates number have increased, so has the number of snow leopards, and thus the frequency of attack on domestic livestock has also increased. So that kind of bimodal relationship. So coming back to my current slide, we conduct snow leopard population surveys using Transect and camera trapping. We in fact train villagers how to set up camera traps, and they are mainly responsible for setting them up and retrieving them. And it's an activity that I think gives them a lot of confidence and a lot of pride that when they see snow leopards pictures or videos in them. We also photograph other predators. In this one, I don't know if you can see, there are wolves. If you look about 1 o'clock from the center of the screen, there are 2 wolves there, very nicely camouflaged. And in this picture, you can see how close snow leopards actually come to human habitation. The one on the left, this female is literally, inside the village, and this picture was taken by a villager and who sent it to me, and he said that this snow leopard kept on visiting us and basically stealing a goat or a chicken, every now and then. So again, this kind of busts the myth of this snow leopard being very elusive, although it is elusive, but at the same time, it lives so close to human society, and it depends so closely on human society. I would now like to And this is another picture from a camera trap, as you can see, from the same camera station, with a snow leopard, then a female ibex, and then some domestic goats. So it's a kind of landscape where there is a lot of coexistence, but at the same time, there is also a lot of conflict, and we are kind of trying to resolve this conflict. These are again pictures from our camera traps. Joe, I would please like you to play the one with a roaring snow leopard video. So this one is a very rare footage that we got 2 years. Thank you, Joe. So again, some more images from our camera trap. In the left, in the right bottom pictures, you can see a Himalayan lynx, which is a very rare species. So we have snow leopards, we have Himalayan wolf, we have lynx, and about 3 or 4 different kinds of sheep and goats. And this is, as I mentioned earlier, villagers feel very proud that they have now a snow leopard under protection in their villages. And it's mainly because of, I think, the compensation that we have provided to these villagers and have been able to neutralize the negative or the perverse incentive they have to kill, a snow leopard. And just sort of, kind of critiquing current conservation practices, although in literature on snow leopard conservation, the conflict between snow leopard and local farmers is considered as perhaps one of the biggest threat to the survival of the species. But very little amount is actually spent on resolving these conflicts. And this is, I'm just giving you an example from the GSLEP, which is Global Snow Leopard Ecosystem Protection Program, a initiative of the World Bank and Leopard Network, a project that was to run for 7 years and invest close to $150 to $200 million in snow leopard management. But as you can see, the top bullet points, only 9% of the money is actually spent or earmarked for resolving the conflict. And coupled with that, if we really look at the research on snow leopard management, an overwhelming majority of research topics are related to scientific management, surveys, and monitoring, and very little is on conflict and conflict management. So there is a kind of need to, match the rhetoric and the practice, that although we think that human-wildlife conflict is the biggest threat to snow leopard survival, but there is very little research and very little money into it. We think that because of our efforts in our project area, which is relatively small, about 5,000 square kilometer, we have about 22 to 40 snow leopards in our project area. And between 2007 2019, we have paid out $38,000 in compensation to local farmers. And we think that the snow leopard population is doing pretty well in our project area. Joe, could you please play the last video? So this is the latest footage from our camera trap 2 months ago. Okay, thank you. And with that, thanks.
All right. Great stuff, Shafqat. That is so, I mean, those videos are so amazing. They're so elusive. So to spot that behavior, getting the camera trap in the right spot, I think that's where I want to start. How do you go about selecting the right spot to put a camera trap?
That's a very good question, because you know, when I show these videos in my class, my students always ask me that why camera and do all these performances. And I said it's not because they're in front of the camera and performances. It's because we know where they are going to mark their territory, and we place our cameras there strategically. So basically, it requires surveying for days and days, and trying to figure out, you know, different travel routes, different paths, and then, you know, look for snow leopard signs, mainly scat signs, pug marks, and scrape marks, and also spray marks and spray marks. And so snow leopards are, I mean, imagine snow leopards in these vast mountains, and they are so lonely, and they are trying to communicate, right? So they are incessant markers. So they're just marking their territory everywhere, right? It's like communicating, right? Yeah. So you have to, you know, pick up, you know, the right spots, and it have to really, when you're walking, you have to keep an eye on everything. You know, a rock, if it is discolored, that means that there was some spray mark. You go and smell it, then you put your camera traps there and look for the. So yeah, it's a lot of labor.
All right, fair enough. You mentioned the Scat collection program, so we have some people curious about what kind of information can you get from that?
So it's very interesting. I mean, the gene sequencing has really evolved a lot and has been evolving a lot. I'm an anthropologist. I have no idea, you know, how it's done. I collaborate with my collaborator at Duquesne University, Dr. Jean Janeka, who's a molecular biologist. So I ask him exactly these kinds of questions. You know, what can we know? So far, I know what we can know. We can know the individual species. So let's say we have collected, you know, 10 samples. They could all come from just one animal, one individual, or they could all come from 10, you know, different individuals, right? So you can identify the species, you can identify the sex, and then you can also identify the relationship. So this is now coming up, you know, very quickly. But for our purpose, you know, we have been able to develop these techniques to actually sequence DNA of prey remains in snow leopard diet. So we now exactly have to, you know, don't have to rely on visual techniques to, you know, identify snow leopard, you know, poop and see what's in it, and looking at the key, and, you know, looking at the hair and all that. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I can see how that's definitely helpful to have that ability to really sequence down.
Right.
Another question from the chat here is about, you know, we saw those 4 together. Was that maybe a mother and some cubs? If so, how old were the cubs?
Yeah, so we are kind of, you know, still you know, debating about it, because one of the cubs, you know, I mean, they all look big, so they are definitely, you know, 18 months. But it seems to me that perhaps one of the cubs from the previous clutch, so it was significantly older, especially the 4th one, I think, and that could have been, you know, and that one would have been at least 3 or 4 years old. So yeah, so it's a family. So it's a family from the same year, or it could be that the female had, you know, babies earlier, and one of the, you know, male joined her.
Sure. Very cool. Let's squeeze in one more question for you, and this is more of just, you know, how lucky have you been? So snow leopards are obviously really elusive. Have you had many wild encounters?
I've never seen a snow leopard in the wild.
I mean, that just speaks to how elusive.
I always refer people to Peter Matheson's book, The Snow Leopard, because, you know.
Yeah, I've got that. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, because he never saw one, and he said it's okay. You know, the search goes on. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're bringing them to the world in such an exciting way, showing that behavior and capturing those moments that we just don't get to see because they are such elusive animals.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Well, Shafqat, thank you so much. Thanks for taking us into the world of the snow leopard. I mean, it's great. It's amazing conservation work. You know, just the results speak for themselves. The lack of predation after the corrals are protected, and all with local resources. And then, you know, the community can take pride in that they have this amazing animal in their community. And when it's not so much of a threat, then it's just more something beautiful and something to be proud of.
Right. Exactly. Well said.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Shafqat, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your evening. I hope you tune in throughout the weekend. It's going to be a busy one. But yeah, best of luck with future research. And I'm sure we'll get some updates down the line.
Sure. Thank you so much again for inviting me. Bye.
All right.